That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back to the Pulse. I am sitting here live at ASU GSV's inaugural AIR Show with a dear friend of mine, Liz Gross from Campus Sonar. Liz, how are you doing? I can't believe we've run into each other in San Diego.
I'm glad you're literally the first person I've spoken to at the AIR Show.
Oh, all right. I feel honored. Liz, what are you doing in San Diego? Why are you at this AIR Show? And why should Pulse listeners care about Campus Sonar?
So I'm primarily in San Diego for the ASU GSV Summit, talking to nonprofits and industry leaders about how they can use social intelligence to understand audiences, markets, and brands. But since the AIR Show was happening, I figured I should show up because I've been on record as a bit of a curmudgeon about AI in higher ed, and I want to make sure I'm taking a reasoned approach and understanding things. So I'm looking forward to seeing particularly what sort of purposeful AI interventions or solutions are in development, under wraps, and challenging my own biases about AI in higher ed.
So I think our listeners know that if there is a spectrum of I don't know anything or use AI ever to I'm really like diving into the deep end, I kind of live on the deep end side of AI. And I read that article with Lee Gardner and I saw some of your comments and I think, that was a measured approach, right? Like we have to be cautious about this technology. It isn't going to solve every single challenge. And along the way, there's responsible and ethical things that like we're figuring out right now. Sound off on that?
Yeah. So what I talked about with Lee in that Chronicle piece, a lot of it was on the cutting room floor. And what really stands out to me from our conversation was the idea that higher education is about creating, evolving, and disseminating knowledge. And I want to make sure that as an industry and as institutions in the industry, we know the integrity and source of that knowledge as it is being created and disseminated. So I am nervous about AI if it becomes a replacement for faculty or student or staff expertise. Any of those things make me nervous. I'm excited about AI in terms of a partner and assistant. I've been really into Professor Malick's work from Wharton recently. He was very recently on the Hello Monday podcast from LinkedIn, looking at AI as a co-pilot, as something that comes along with you on the journey. And I'm interested in investigating that more. But when I think about the folks I work with in marketing and in student affairs, I'm hoping we find a balance between AI for progress and efficiency and AI for pushing out more. I don't think we need to push out more deliverables, more content, more stuff without being thoughtful about why we're doing it or who we're doing it for. So that's the dichotomy I'm moving back and forth in my mind.
Some of the latest iterations that I am seeing in the marketplace around AI are around co-pilots and assistants, really designed to amplify and support teams who are utilizing particularly generative AI to better communicate with students in a more personalized way. Have you, as the leader at Campus Sonar, started to think about those types of things in relation to social listening and what students actually want versus what maybe we think they want.
Yeah. So when it comes to AI assistants and generative AI at Campus Sonar, we are cautious, very cautious, particularly from a privacy and intellectual property standpoint. We don't want to necessarily give the AI everything we know because what we've learned is the value we offer. But we are very interested in how it can help us find patterns in data that we can then investigate using our expertise and our industry context and knowledge that I am not willing to bet on an AI assistant having yet. And one of the things that really came up recently is how students can be a hidden voice in a conversation that appears to be about and from students, but perhaps isn't. And this is where I don't yet know where we would leverage AI to do it. But my team recently looked at 725,000 conversations, big old data set, about equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging in higher ed. And we looked at that wanting to understand the student voice. It was all first-person conversations, pronoun-based. Upon further investigation, we could identify less than 1% of that conversation being from students. It was still politically and media-driven conversation. So it would be amazing if AI could help us get more into like who is behind these conversations, because a lot of technology products are offering, large data set analysis using AI. But I want to know the people behind the data, especially when it's personal representative data like that. And I'm looking to find some more folks that are making progress in that front.
Yeah. To your point, I think some of the most exciting things for me when it comes to AI and data is the ability to just query the data. Like you and I are talking right here, if I have a question about it, to be able to ask the data that question as if it is a person, right? And not have to have crazy skill sets or education to, understand how to collate this information, integrate this information, take it from this system and that system and pull it together, and then know how to use R or different types of models that allow me to query it. I've never thought about it, though, from the perspective that you just said, not necessarily taking all the data and asking questions, but really understanding where the data is coming from. And I don't know. I don't know. Where does this go?
I recently got in a bit of an argument with Claude, which is the AI assistant I am trialing on my own. And I pushed Claude, who I suspect shouldn't have personal pronouns, to tell me what is the source of the data you are reflecting back to me. And it wouldn't tell me. And that's where I want to get further is, yes, I'm all about insights and action and understanding, but I need to know the source of it, because particularly when we're in a polarized society where people are arguing about what actually is true, we need to know what we're citing. So that'll be actually something I go take a look at while I'm at the AIR Show and see if there's anyone out there in a space building AI for education that is starting to tackle that problem.
Very interesting. So let's switch gears for a moment. What's new and exciting at Campus Sonar? I heard there was some fun research happening. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, in March we released Rebuilding Public Trust, a social intelligence report, where we looked at the conversation in the second half of 2023 to better understand what are people saying about the worth, the value, the ROI of higher ed. Because we've seen all of these reports from Gallup and the Chronicle and Inside Higher Ed and others talking about declining trust, declining confidence. And we wanted to know more about what that actually looked like in real life conversation and peer-to-peer influence particularly. So we learned that the sentiment picture still sucks. 93% of conversations were either negative or neutral about the value, ROI, and worth of higher education. There were some really promising nuggets. We looked at indisputable advantages that were put up in the conversation, which really mirror what one in the industry would call a liberal arts education. They don't use those words. And then unmatched opportunities, what doors wanted to be opened with higher education. And again, it wasn't just a high-paid job. It was about contributions to society and other ways to build diverse career paths. But the big thing that I'm focusing on from this data is the caveats. 45% of the conversations we found about the value, worth, and ROI of higher education in the last half of 2023 had a caveat. It was a caveat that essentially, when I walked into this room, Taylor Swift was playing, so I feel it was a sign I need to make a Taylor Swift reference. The caveat of theme of this conversation was, higher ed's probably worth it, but you're on your own to make it work for you. And they caveated, well, you need to make sure your major is connected to a career. You need to find an internship experience. All of these things that as a former student affairs professional, I know are served on campus, but are either underutilized, have a low level of awareness, or are just not recognized by students. So we're really leaning into what we can learn from those caveats, because they really should be advantages to making the most of your higher education, but students are feeling like they're on their own, and we need to make a better connection of how institutions will support them in that process.
Well, listeners may know that Seth and I on a recent Pulse episode just talked about the vanishing liberal arts and how we really feel like there's a role for marketing communication professionals on campuses to help to rebrand liberal arts. Maybe that's not the right words to use anymore. Maybe they mean something different to today's 18 or 19-year-old or even their parents than they did 10, 20, 30 years ago. And maybe it's not just rebranding in general, but also thinking about the programs and how you are delivering what is a liberal arts education, but changing the context to, and Seth had a great example of one of his customers, putting out courses like what is beauty, what is truth. Doesn't that sound so interesting? Wouldn't you like to take that course? Well, guess what? That's really a philosophy course, but it's just packaged differently. Was there anything in your research? I mean, you kind of alluded to this maybe rebrand opportunity, but was there anything in this research that helps to support that?
There was a lot of, I don't know how this is going to work for me or how I'm going to make a connection. So one of the recommendations that we made in the report was the need to do, and this goes back to your personalization comments earlier, we need to do high volume but personalized storytelling at scale related to outcomes and career connections. And it's not that every single person needs to have a different message, but a person needs to be able to look to an institution and see, here is somebody who looks like me or lived like me and has similar aspirations to me, who then fulfills them. And it doesn't need to be someone who became an astronaut or who changed the world. Someone who's paying their bills and happy in their life is a positive outcome at this point in time. And making that connection of, we got to this point, and then here's what prepared me, using our audience's words, largely Gen Z at this point, reflected back to them, rather than trying to teach them how to talk about the liberal arts, but talk to them about beauty, truth. Taylor Swift courses are often liberal arts courses. I think that's going to make a stronger connection with the audience, and our data is showing us that we have a lot to learn about how students are categorizing and talking about the air quote liberal arts without ever using that term. So we shouldn't necessarily be reflecting that term back to them.
Yeah. Well, hey, any podcast where we can reference Taylor Swift twice is a win in my
Mallory.
book. I love it. Liz, this has been such a pleasure. Where can listeners find you?
The best place these days is either on LinkedIn /Liz Gross. You can go right to my inbox if you really want to, lgross@campussonar.com. But all of the research that we talked about and all the other insights from Campus Sonar are on campussonar.com. And I hope folks will subscribe to our monthly newsletter, because I write a letter once a month, and then my team adds another one a few weeks later. And we'll have our insights from ASU GSV in the May edition.
Well, I personally love reading your newsletter, especially when it is that personal note from you. It is always a treat in my inbox. And listeners, we will drop some important links to all the things that Liz has mentioned into the show notes so you can access it even faster. Liz, it's been great. I hope you enjoy the rest of the AIR Show. And Pulse listeners, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, And we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.